Hi, my name is Natalie Rief, and this is my final project. And the country I decided to choose was Germany. So, first, what is colonialism? This is the control over another territory by power. The reason for this is to rule politically, take resources, and change culture. So, a country will go to another place with people living there, and they will take over and say, "This is our lands now," to benefit to for their own benefit. So this is Germany's journey. So I did a timeline just to make it clear because it's a lot of information. So in 1884, Southwest Africa was claimed by Germany. So Germany went there and decided to claim them. The Hero tribe in 1903 said we've had enough and they decided to revolt, which resulted in 60 German settlers to be killed. Then the next year in 1904, a lot happened. The General Lothar von Trotha ordered every single male hero to be killed and every single woman and children to be put in the desert. And then at the end of 1904, the order was lifted. So the order of every man being killed and the women and children in the desert was lifted. And the prisoners were then put into concentration camps and used for slave labor for German businesses because it was cheap labor and Germany was did not want the hero tribe to revolt, so they tried to destroy them and use them as slaves. And then the top right, that's a picture of the general that put into place the order of every man being killed and the children and women being put in desert. And then the left is right here is the picture of the part of Southwest Africa that Germany decided to take over. And then from 1904 to 1907, Hero and Nama began a rebellion. Nama is also another group of South African individuals that Germany took over. So they began a rebellion. They said, "We've had enough after this long." And the results of that, 75,000 people died. And then the next year in 1908, Germany said, "We've had enough of this rebellion and we're going to regain full control." And then by that point, unfortunately, about 110,000 Africans had died from two things. Either the Germans killed them or they tried to escape and they were malnourished, weren't drinking water, eating, trying to escape, and they ended up dying that way. Then in 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed, which is what was the end of World War One. So that was the official end and loss of power over those colonies, and it was to the Allied powers. So something to tie in the health aspect into the situation with Germany and South Africa is this is an important name. So Robert Koch was a German physician and he had a sleeping sickness camps. So this used toxic arsenals with damaging side effects to the African people. And this is just one example of how colonial subjects became test populations because they wanted to try new medicines, they wanted to evolve, they wanted to learn new things. So they said, okay, we have all these people and they didn't care about their life. Obviously, they killed them. So they became test populations for their own personal research findings. So now we're going to talk about the connection between colonism and current health status. So the connection was to this day, right now, Germany has a very high life expectancy of 82 years, and that is the average of women and men. So we can conclude that their current overall health is very good. But the problem to connect the two is that the health is not evenly distributed. And this is a really interesting fact that I did not know is a fourth of the people living in Germany still have migrant backgrounds. So that's a really important part, which is why the MR IMRA project was a thing. So the same guy, Robert Koch Institute, he was a scientist. It was a series of initiatives, and their goal was to improve the inclusion of people with a migration background in public health monitoring and reporting. So they saw that this was a problem later on, and they wanted to make it right. And they also did come out and say years later that this was not okay and that what they did was wrong. So they started to try to improve the health of the migrant people. So this is a picture of the Robert Koch Institute to this day in 2025. This is their updated building, grass kept up. So this is still exists to this day. And a really cool fun fact is that Robert Koch Institute, RKI, is one of the oldest biomedical studies institute, and that is a current fact of 2025. And here is a picture of him. So he was really involved in a main character involving the health of colonism and not only the history but the health behind it and what it looks like today. And finally, my three recommendations. One would be giving more aid to local led health programs to support the longevity of projects. What I mean by that is a lot of times aid is given to huge corporations and they don't know what the intimate people need of their country. So I feel like if we aid more local programs, they can help the needs of people there. Two, repairing trust in the system and health professionals, if giving more access to mental health and ensuring that everyone has accessibility and feels comfortable, because a lot of times when they come from migrant backgrounds, they don't fully trust the country because of what they did to others. So if we regain that trust back and we work towards that, that would be positive. And similar to the project IMIRA, this I think would be really beneficial nationwide because migration is something that happens all over the world. There's nowhere where there was no migration whatsoever. So this would ensure that migrants are represented and implements anti-racism measures because everyone is equal at the end of the day, no matter your background. So I feel like if we implement this, that would be very positive. And conclusion, I learned a lot about long-term effects of colonism that it has on people. For example, like to this day, they're still working on health benefits and like the public health aspect of something that happened 100 years ago, and they're still working on it to this day. Yeah, there's still effects today, and there are still efforts to help. And another fact that I thought was really interesting is less than 2 million people today still live in a place that is not self-government. So there's 2 million people that the UN recognizes that these places are still under colonial rule. So that is something that I feel like people are working towards, and this still exists to this day. This is not gone. So if we're working towards the benefits, I feel like that would be great. Thank you for listening. I learned a lot about the history, which made me excited, and just things that I would not never have thought of. And I really had a great time researching this, and I learned a lot. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.